And as always, do a quick safety check. So remove our magazine. Magazine's free and clear. Open up the bolt. Chamber area is clear. So we're good to go to start looking at the controls and features of the Chiappa PAK 9. Have a single stage trigger. This is our safety here. It's currently, there's an F there for fire, S for safe. So to put it on safe, you would simply lift up that lever, and now it's on safe. When it's on safe, the lever does a couple other things. It blocks the handle from being able to be charged back. It also covers up that little bit of open area that's right there. So it operates as a dust cover as well. Have a top Picatinny rail. Have rail sections on both sides. And there's a rail section on the bottom front, on the forearm. It does come with a rear sight that goes onto the Picatinny rail. Now on this particular one, it has a red dot or reflex sight on it, and it has an SB tactical brace that's been added. They come from the factory with just a sling swivel mount on the back. This particular brace is the fork type, that the metal fork that holds the brace simply goes underneath the hand grip. The hand grip itself, when it screws in, is what holds it in place. This is also a replacement grip. It's a Magpul MOE grip that I've put on here. Flip it over on the other side. This is our magazine release right here. That is not the magazine release. That would be a magazine release on the original AK platform itself. However, for the PAK 9, that is what unlocks this whole forearm assembly, which houses the magazine adapters. So that would be our magazine release. You'd simply push in to remove the magazine. This here, as I said, removes the forearm. So to remove that, you'd simply push in like you would to remove a magazine if it were an AK. And then the forearm assembly basically will lift off then. It takes a little bit of manipulation there. Now the magazine adapters, it comes with a Beretta magazine adapter, which is right here. They lift out. And at this point, if you had one of the other adapters, for example, they make one for Glock magazines as well, you would just pop the Glock magazine one in, and it'll now take Glock magazines. This forearm adapter, there's some little grooves in the plastic right there and on both sides. Right there and right here. Those engage these metal rivets here, or posts, what's hold the forearm on, and then this tab locks in to the original AK magazine disc or magazine release. If you notice, showing its AK heritage, the magazine well opening itself is a full-size magazine well that an regular AK magazine wouldn't block into. However, the internal components obviously have been adapted for the 9mm, but it just shows that, you know, this started life as an AK-47. So we'll go ahead and continue disassembly. This is the dust cover removal button right here. You'd simply push in on that. The dust cover itself is hinged right there. So when you push in, you can lift up. That opens up so you can get to the internal section. Here's our recoil spring. That same button is also what retains the recoil spring. You would simply push in even further and then lift up, and it comes out as a unit. It's a captive recoil spring. This is a buffer assembly that's put in here. There again, this is, since it's 9mm, it doesn't need the full length of travel, and this is to limit that travel. At this point, you can remove the bolt carrier or bolt assembly by simply sliding it all the way back, and then it lifts out. That leaves us with our fire control assembly in here. This is our ejector right there. Have the hammer, then of course you have the disconnector and the the trigger components and the hammer springs. You don't want to disassemble any of this any further. To remove anything further would require removal of various pins, and there's no reason to remove any of that unless there's a parts breakage. And at that point, you'd probably want to enlist the aid of a qualified gunsmith, unless you're very familiar yourself with the AK platform and feel competent to be able to do that work yourself. If any of these get out of alignment, it could make the firearm inoperable or unsafe. So make sure that if any work's done on this, if it's done by yourself, make sure you know what you're doing. If it's done by a gunsmith, make sure they know what they're doing. So as far as field strip operation, you just want to clean everything out here, give it a light coating of oil for corrosion prevention and to lubrication. Clean the barrel, both the inside and out. Basically wipe everything down, clean out any gunk or dirt or grit that's in there. So we'll go ahead and set that aside for right now. This would be the bolt carrier on an AK. You have the charging handle here. On a regular AK, this would be the gas, the operating rod for the gas system. In this case, since it's a blowback operated firearm, there's no gas operation system. This is just a big heavy piece of metal that's hooked to the bolt carrier. And for that matter, this is the bolt itself. On a regular AK, this would be the carrier, and there would be a separate rotating bolt assembly that would be in this area here. And that rotating bolt assembly is what would lock into the barrel for lockup. Since this is a blowback operated firearm, there is no lockup. So it's just a big heavy bolt, and this just adds extra weight and mass to it. That's our extractor right there. The firing pin right there is where the hammer hits. And then firing pin would protrude to fire the cartridge right there. This is as far as you want to disassemble this. Any further disassembly would require driving out pins, and there's no reason to remove anything further at this point unless there's some parts damage or some breakage of some type. As far as the pin location itself, that pin there would be for the extractor. That pin holds the charging handle. This pin holds the firing pin, and that pin actually goes all the way through and would come out through there. So no reason to disassemble this any further. You just want to clean everything off, clean all the gunk out. In the rail slots right there, make sure those are clear and then oiled for operation. The recoil spring, you basically just want to wipe that down. So as far as reassembly, open up our dust cover. First thing you'd want to do would be to put in your bolt. Now, as far as those rails, here's the rails right here. They're part of the stamped receiver itself, and then there are no rails in the back portion there, and that's where you would slide the bolt first. You'd put it in position there and then slide forward. You do have some resistance because the hammer itself, this will ride on the top of it. So I just sit right there, so you got to push it forward a little bit, and you kind of mean it. The nice thing about AK series, they're very durable, and so you can kind of be a little rough with them, and actually sometimes you just need to. It's the easiest way to put them together. Put our recoil spring in. Those little rail sections there on both sides engage corresponding recesses right there. So you'd simply push it forward, put that in recesses. There you go. Oops. Forgot the buffer. The little notch there, that goes toward the front. So that just goes in, drops into place. Put our recoil spring. Put the dust cover down. There again, I said with an AK, you don't have to be too gentle with it. Just pop it in and you're good to go. Check for function. That all works. Now we have our fore end to put back on. You would align those notches that are in the fore end with those rivets. And then lock it in place. And we're reassembled.